Hey, hi, Paul Slackis. This is a big honor for me. I'm speaking to PL, but we can describe that in a moment. Actually, I'm Dr. De Silva, who's been a friend for a long time. How are you this morning, my friend?
I'm very good, Brother Paul. Really, really good. But, we may be good here, but people in Ukraine are really, really suffering.
And we're going to get right to that. And the Dr. De Silva is an adjunct professor, UN Studies, MA program, School of Diplomacy and International Relations. He's over there at Seton Hall University and Director, Institute of Strategic Studies and Democracy, ISSD, Malta. He's a do-gooder and cares greatly about the world. I'm going to start off with actually had an op-ed article here, and I think it's a wonderful article to start with. But then we can get into the nitty-gritty of what that is and learn. I've learned a lot I didn't know about, in essence, in this whole Ukrainian-Russian scenario. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Okay, so, and that was Sun Tzu. And so, but we have fighting and we have killing, and it's a terrible scenario. And usually that is the scenario when it comes to war. So tell us about why you wrote this op-ed article that we have also written here that people can read. And what you're thinking here I'm going to put a date on today, just because, as we know, every 5 minutes, it could be every moment is a different world. So today is, what the heck is today? The March
18th.
18th. Okay, March 18th, 2022. All right, Doctor, what's the thoughts?
So the thing is that I wrote this op-ed, writing it for the consumption of the US and the US military establishment, as well as its allies across the pond in the UK and in Europe in particular. And the argument here is that the war need not be widened. Mr. Putin, the aggressor, can be brought down without widening the war and fighting him and expanding the war from Ukraine to a wider front. And the reason is, this is all Mr. Putin's doing. He has not adhered to the tenets of the supreme art of war, which is actually to win without fighting, right? So there were many other ways that he could have, achieved his objectives, his narrow objectives, which have been, since he's been in power since 1999, to try to resurrect the Soviet Union and to put all the former Soviet republics under the yoke of the Russians, again, under the Kremlin. But what has happened by him aggressively invading Ukraine and blasting their cities into rubble is that he has got the exact direct opposite result. He has unified the European Union. He has unified NATO. He has stiffened resolve in the US. And he has ensured that all the former Soviet satellite republics along Russia's border are going to run to the European Union and to the NATO alliance for protection, because historically, all of them have suffered during Soviet times, and they know how the Russians are. And therefore, everything that Mr. Putin didn't want to see happen has happened, and he is in one big mess. And I predict that this is his last dance, and that he will fall off his chair sooner rather than later, because neither the Kremlin nor his inner circle can afford this madness, the madness of war.
Oh my God. So let me just be since it didn't happen, how could it have happened in more of of our friend's way, the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. What could he have done? Let's take his other side that he possibly could have considered, so on. Even though we're a believer, and I'll say it straight out right now, I'm John Leninist, and this is from the photo from the moon, the blue marble, where there's no boundaries and no borders, including the United States. So we're one people. We're all Homo sapiens. Anybody could try to say they're not, but I kind of think we are. And we're all brothers and sisters. So, but we have created these segregated scenarios with countries, and then somebody gets one and maybe wants another. So what could he have done in that we have structured the world in a country fashion?
Right. So if he was not so obsessed, if Mr. Putin was not so obsessed, ever since he came into power in 1999, if he was not obsessed about resurrecting the ghost of the USSR, and he used many more carrots than sticks, he would have kept everybody within the Russian orbit. He certainly could have. But he also is a very bombastic, very arrogant person. And it's said in the Holy Book that pride comes before a fall. And had he been a more humble person, a more open person, and had not been probably trained by the KGB in the intelligence services, and been so paranoid, we would see a different outcome. But here we have Russian brothers attacking their Ukrainian brothers and sisters, and there's wholesale slaughter. That's the problem. The problem's in Mr. Putin's head.
Excuse me one second. I'm going to get one quote just because I'd like to share it at this moment with you, Doctor. You're an educator, and we're brothers. And actually, this is a quote from a Jewish Wisdoms, because you spoke on the Holy Book, and it's something that I kind of think of. Let me see. Hopefully, I can find it. Oh yeah. Why was man created on the last day? So that he can be told when pride takes hold of him, God created the gnat before thee. So I don't know. But he didn't go that way, and his pride has overcome this. Is the reality. So we are in war. He's in war. He had been in war earlier, as I learned in your article. Everyone should read that because it puts a better perspective on all this kind of scenario. In fact, you have a quote in there about how sometimes people, everybody's just trying to live their life, and that's difficult enough. And then there are people like you and the United Nations and government kinds of people, and they're involved more so with these things. We read headlines, not necessarily even in the headlines true. You can get different perspectives on the media world. That's a whole nother scenario. There's a problem here, no doubt about it. And why do you think the Ukraine specifically, and we're going to have a benefit for the Ukraine on Earth Day, actually, in Times Square. Why do you think the Ukraine itself, for this country, and we've done so much so far, except for actually go in there and fight with the Ukrainians, why do you think it's such a big concern?
The reason is that if Mr. Putin does not fail at this juncture, because this journey started back in 1999, if you read my article.
Yes.
All you have to do is, all what I did was connect the dots of what he has done in his career. And if he's not stopped now, the Baltic states, some of the Nordic states, Finland and Sweden, as well as Poland, Romania, Moldova, Georgia, all of these countries are under threat of invasion. This is a madness, like the madness of Adolf Hitler.
Let me ask you another question, because this seems to be a big concern in this scenario. And unfortunately, unfortunately, it's China. Actually, I would say China and India. Let's start with China, because China seems more concerning in the last couple of days. And even today, maybe they're bringing them arms, or maybe they brought them cash. I don't know. That's a scary scenario. That's even scarier than the Russians, right?
You know, I've known the Chinese well since like 2005. Been to China a number of times. I was a guest of Madame Liu Yondong, the only woman in the Chinese Politburo during the time of President Hu Jintao. And I can tell you that the Chinese are very sophisticated, very conservative. They might make all sorts of warlike noises, but I can bet my last dollar that the Chinese will not get involved in this imbroglio. What they want is to actually, and what they will do, is they will pick up the pieces in Russia's economy, post-Putin. And everywhere where Western countries and companies have pulled out, the Chinese will go in, which is their number. They are not, though they've made warlike noises with regard to Taiwan, if you look at their track record for the last, say, 20, 30 years, it's a trade business. That trade, construction, that's what the Belt and Roadway project is all about. And I can't see them veering away from that, because that's their primary goal. They will not get short-circuited into some stupid war of aggression in Ukraine or anywhere else. So they're kind of hedging their bets. And I think most analysts would tell you that Mr. Putin is done. So I'm sure that the Chinese, who think like 20, 25 years ahead, are already planning for a post-Putin scenario.
But what? Maybe I'm wrong though, and I also have had a long involvement with the Chinese. Actually, they put me in business since 1985, and I've done many. I broke the Asian market in America. I brought rock and roll music into China. I represented Taiwan 27 years. And so I really had a long involvement. And I will say, they do what they do, but I agree with your thinking. However, I thought I heard the last couple of days, and maybe I got to go deeper, is that they were sending them arms and they were sending them money. So that scares me.
Right. No, the Russians don't need money. They need soldiers. Putin has engaged, I think, 75% of his military, the Russian military, in Ukraine, because they're totally bogged down, stalled, and they're going to fight to a stalemate. And he needs soldiers. That's why he's fishing around in the Middle East to get Syrian mercenaries and Chechen mercenaries, etc. But that's not going to solve the problem, because the Ukrainians are fighting him. The Chinese will not send him Chinese soldiers. The Russians have weapons. It's not weapons that they need. But on the financial front, what I understand is that, Russian banks are trying to use, Chinese credit facilities and credit cards, etc., to get out of it. But the Chinese are going to be very smart about this. They are going to make sure that they don't get pulled into this war, because it's a fruitless war. They will not. They will keep away. And they've also learned lessons of what not to do when it comes to Taiwan.
I think Lao Tzu also was kind of down on war. One of their historic figures.
Yes, of course.
The other thing that I learned from your article was Russia in Africa. And tell us about that, because I'd be frank, I didn't know about Russia in Africa. I know about Chinese in Africa, and I know about Africa having 50% of the natural resources of the world, which I guess a lot of people are considering becoming friends with Africa. But Russia has been involved with Africa for many years.
Russia has been involved with Africa for many years, but this new scenario is probably since the Arab Spring. I think the Russians saw, the Kremlin saw, and certainly Mr. Putin saw an opportunity. You know, Russia is not strong like China on the economic front. They can't do, you know, trade and investments and construction. So what do they have? I mean, what is Russia really at the end of the day? It's a tiny economy. It's a great big gas station. They've got nuclear weapons. That's the only reason why we talk to them. And that's what, you know, Admiral Norman Robert Hayes said. And he was director intelligence at European Command under Admiral James Stavridis. And he used to meet with the Russians all the time. And he said, the only reason we talk to them is they're a big gas station and they got nukes. The economy is a tiny economy. So how does Mr. Putin try to leverage what he has in Africa? What he has is soldiers. So they create this Spetsnaz unit in 2014 with the Crimean War and the invasion and taking over of Crimea. He creates this group called the Spetsnaz, which is headed by one of his close associates. And it has become Russian foreign policy, because these soldiers, these special forces, mercenaries, are state-sponsored. And they have a bureau in all of the 55 countries in Africa. And they got involved in the war in Libya. And surprise, surprise, you had the UAE, which actually instigated the war in Libya in 2014, when they employed the disgraced Palestinian intelligence head, Mohammed Dahlan, who then, together with a Libyan operative, sent weapons in 2014 to Seton. That's when the war started. So the Russians come along and they are fighting on behalf of the warlord Haftar. And then, so that's from there. Now they're in Mali. They were in Mozambique. In Mozambique, the Daesh, the ISIS guys, you know, basically beheaded a whole bunch of them, and they didn't do too well in Mozambique. So they're everywhere, and but now they've been withdrawn to come back and fight in Ukraine, because Mr. Putin needs people to fight. But I can tell you from observing Libya that the Turks, who were supporting the UN-backed government in Tripoli, employed drones and sent the Spetsnaz, the guys from they're called the Wagner Group. They sent the Wagner Group guys packing. And the same thing is happening in Ukraine, because after 2014, the Turks started a drone program for the Ukrainian government. And they're using them, they're cheap, they're efficient, and they're using them in swarms against Russian targets. So these are all things that are bubbling to the surface.
Let me ask you a question. So you also know that I have been involved with the International Day of Peace of the United Nations.
Yes.
I got 20 years in. And this year I am telling people this is going to be our most our biggest project, our biggest outreach, our desire to, and we put a hold on the Great Lawn in the Central Park and on Times Square. And the dream is we're going to get 193 ambassadors, and we're going to put the human peace sign, 18,000 people, and we're going to have human peace signs. Like, this is what we do. Peace sign actually represents disarmament. Do you have to do something? Is that your dog?
No, just give me 1 second, my dog.
The dogs are part of my show. They got the dogs. I have the plants, because we're all one, and all the people of the world. So what I'm going to eventually ask Dr. De Silva, I love professors and I love this guy. This is a smart, you can tell what a great professor you are just by the way you're such a good listener, and you hear and are compassionate with somebody asking a question. And I'm sure your students over at Seton Hall, and I'll be frank with you, I have selected Seton Hall as the winner of the March Madness basketball because of you and because my friend Claire Diab, who is my yoga instructor and teaches there, and her dad teaches law. In any case, it'll be a big upset if they win. It'd be a massive upset. In any case, I want to do something worldwide. I'm going to put 6 offices. God willing, we get the funding to move this all forward, because 6 offices, 193 people, and create a human peace signs, and then have a party and hug and make life what it is, the goodness of it all. Am I on an impossible? Well, 193 countries agreed. Can I go back to those 193 countries that raised their hand and say, can you put a peace sign between your country and the country next to you? You think I mean, you know the UN better than me. Can I go do that?
Right. So the thing is this, what is your time frame?
Well, my time frame is actually September 21st is the International Day of Peace, 12 noon. And that's when the UN says have a ceasefire and do a moment of silence.
Right. So what you need to do in order to make this thing happen is that you need to get a compliant, supportive UN agency from within the system to support you, and they can lobby on your behalf with the General Assembly, with the members of the General Assembly. So that takes some time. That's why I asked how much time you have. And the sooner you get that working, and I can certainly help you, because I used to be a senior advisor for Secretary General Kofi Annan, and I was a principal officer in the executive office of the Secretary General. So I know the kind of inner workings of the UN at that level. So in order for you to get this thing moving, I shall make some inquiries today and pass you on the contact so that you can move rapidly, because
thank you. I'm recording all this. I'm broadcasting all this. Here's a man who wants to move life forwards and continues to be of service, even to us. Any other last thoughts at this moment? I mean, we have the article. We read the article. You have made good logical history to now put the Ukrainian scenario right now into perspective, your thoughts that you just shared now, in addition to your article. Anything else you'd like to share with us at this moment?
I think the work that you're doing is tremendous. We need peace. We need to support peace. We need peace, stability, we need harmony. And that's what we need to work on. And the work you're doing and the broadcast that you're doing and the positive, the good news that you're trying to share is so important, because we get so much of negative news feeds. I mean, we humans seem to, delight in bad news. So having good news is, I think, excellent. More power to you. And anything that I can do or people in my network can do to help you, we're more than happy to help you and support you. And the work that you're doing, not only for Peace Day, but also for Earth Day, because climate change, at the end of the day, we're like grasshoppers, we're dancing around. And we don't see that the end is nigh, the writing is on the wall. And if we don't shape up, the 6th mass extinction is taking place. And, we may follow soon after. And, that's the thing. Everybody thinks that, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. And climate change is real. So it's excellent that you're working on both those fronts, and that you're also supporting peace in Ukraine, peace for the Ukrainian people. And that's my prayer.
Let me ask you, though, because you did say something that I'm not familiar with. I hope you don't mind. And when I'm not familiar, I say something. whether everybody in the world say, geez, this guy is not so smart. He doesn't know anything. I don't care. The point is, now I will know something. The sixth mass extinction. I talk about that Mother Earth was on ice a couple of times. All right, ice ages, okay? And either you knew how to skate or you didn't live. So I don't know what this means, six mass extinctions.
So I recommend all the listeners and everybody to go to the World Wildlife Fund website.
Okay.
And it's there. It's the fauna and flora that are becoming extinct because of our human activity.
Okay. And it has happened.
Happening now.
But there's been 5 times before this?
Yeah.
Mamma mia. I have I have their calendar and I have their involvement. Okay, I'm going to do that. Professor, you're fantastic. Last question, what is peace for you?
Peace for me is small things where people can go and put their heads on their pillows and not be afraid that the rocket is coming through their window or somebody's going to come in the night and kill them. That's peace for me.
I love you. Thank you so much.
God bless you.
God bless you.